The stars looked different now that humans could finally reach them. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty and watched space bend around his ship as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 100 years of dreaming and 50 years of building, humanity had finally broken free from their solar system. Jake felt proud but also nervous. This was the first time humans had traveled so far from Earth. The Liberty carried the hopes of 8 billion people back home. They were looking for other life in the galaxy and maybe even friends among the stars. The ship moved slowly through empty space near a red star system. Captain Lisa Moore walked up beside Jake and looked at the readings on her screen. She was the best diplomat Earth had ever trained for this moment. If they found aliens out here, Lisa would be the first human to talk to them. Sensors are picking up something big, said the young officer at the control station. His name was Peter Kim, and he had never been this far from home before. There are ships ahead of us, and they look nothing like ours. Jake felt his heart beat faster. After all these years of wondering if humans were alone, they finally had their answer. He ordered the crew to slow down and prepare for contact. The Liberty was not a warship, but an exploration vessel built for peace. The alien ships came into view on the main screen. They were massive and beautiful, made of what looked like silver metal that glowed with soft blue light. The smallest alien ship was twice the size of the Liberty. There were 5 of them arranged in a perfect formation. Lisa stepped forward and opened a communication channel. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times, but her voice still shook a little as she spoke into the microphone. This is Captain Lisa Moore of the Earth vessel Liberty. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly contact with your people. The response came quickly, but not in any language humans had ever heard. The sounds were musical and strange, like wind chimes mixed with whale songs. Then suddenly the voice changed and spoke perfect English. "Little meat creatures in their metal box," the alien voice said with what sounded like laughter. "You amuse us greatly. We are the Zephyrian Empire, and we have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 of your Earth years." Jake and Lisa looked at each other with worry. The alien voice did not sound friendly at all. It sounded like an adult talking to a small child who had done something silly. The largest alien ship moved closer to the Liberty. On the main screen, they could see it was covered in weapons that glowed with the same blue energy. The ship looked like it could destroy the Liberty without any effort at all. "I am High Commander Vextel of the Zephyrian Fleet," the voice continued. "We know about your little world already. Our scouts have been watching you for some time. You have just learned to crawl between the stars like babies learning to walk." Lisa tried to keep her voice steady as she replied, "We are new to space travel, but we come with peaceful intentions. Earth would like to establish trade and friendship with the Zephyrian Empire." The laughter that came through the speakers was loud and mean. Jake could hear multiple alien voices laughing together as if Lisa had told the funniest joke they had ever heard. "Trade?" Vextel said between laughs. "What could primitive apes like you possibly offer to us? You have barely learned to make fire in space. Your weapons are chemical explosives. Your computers are slower than our toys. You are nothing but entertainment for us." The insults hit Jake like physical blows. He wanted to fight back, but he knew the Liberty could not win against ships so advanced. He watched Lisa take a deep breath and try again. "Perhaps we could learn from each other," Lisa said. "Human culture and art might interest your people, and we would be grateful for any knowledge you could share." "Learn from you?" Vextel laughed even harder. "You pathetic creatures have nothing to teach anyone. We will give you one gift, though. We will tell every civilized race in the galaxy about the amusing little monkeys who think they belong among the stars." The alien ships began to move away from the Liberty. Before they left completely, Vextel spoke one more time. "Stay in your tiny corner of space, humans. Play with your simple machines and pretend to be important. If you venture too far from your little world, we might decide to step on you like the insects you are. The galaxy has no place for creatures like you." The Zephyrian ships disappeared in flashes of blue light, leaving the Liberty alone and empty. Space. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of machines. Jake felt anger and shame burning in his chest. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair with tears in her eyes. The journey back to Earth felt longer than the trip out. When they arrived, Jake and Lisa had to report their failure to Admiral Robert Kane and the leaders of Earth. The message was clear: humanity was not welcome in the galaxy. They were seen as nothing more than a joke by races that could destroy them easily. News of the meeting spread across Earth quickly. Some people were scared and wanted to hide. Others were angry and wanted to fight. But everyone understood that their dream of joining a galactic community had ended before it could begin. Admiral Kane called meetings with the best scientists and military leaders on Earth. They needed to decide what humanity should do next. The aliens had made it clear that humans were weak and unwelcome, but Kane was not ready to give up on the stars. 6 months passed since the meeting with the Zephyrians. Earth had been busy building defenses and preparing for what might come next. Admiral Robert Kane worked day and night with engineers and scientists to make better ships and weapons. Everyone knew the aliens would return. The warning came from deep space sensors on a quiet Tuesday morning. 5 massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. These were not just Zephyrian vessels, but ships from different alien races. Each one was larger than any human space station. Dr. Helen Wright stood in the command center on Earth watching the screens with President William Carter. She was the smartest person humans had when it came to studying alien life. Her job was to figure out what these creatures wanted and how humans could deal with them. The alien ships moved slowly toward Earth, taking their time as if they owned the entire solar system. They stopped just past Mars and sent a message to every government on the planet at the same time. People of Earth, the message began in perfect English. You will gather your leaders and send them to meet with the Galactic Council. You have 3 days to comply. President Carter called together representatives from every nation on Earth. They chose Dr. Wright to lead the negotiations because she understood alien behavior better than anyone else. They also selected General Amy Foster to show that Earth had military strength, even if it was much weaker than alien technology. The meeting took place on a space station that the aliens built in one day. It appeared between Earth and the Moon like magic, made of materials that human science could not identify. The station was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dr. Wright and the other human leaders took a shuttle to the station. Inside, they found a huge room with 5 different areas, each designed for a different alien race. The humans felt very small walking into this place. The Zephyrians were there with their glowing ships and musical voices. High Commander Vexthal floated in the air inside some kind of energy bubble. Next to him stood creatures that looked like giant insects with too many eyes and sharp claws. These were the Zerathi, and their thoughts seemed to move together like one mind. The third group looked like living crystals that sparkled with inner light. They were the Valdorians, and they spoke by changing colors instead of making sounds. The fourth race lived in water tanks and had tentacles instead of arms. These were the Nephter, and their voices sounded like ocean waves. The last group was the strangest of all. They were machines that had somehow become alive. The synthetic collective looked like robots but moved with the grace of living beings. Their leader was a tall figure made of silver metal with glowing red eyes. I am Kethmor of the Valdorian High Command, said the crystal being through a translation device. We speak for the Galactic Council that has kept peace in this galaxy for over 1,000 years. Dr. Wright stepped forward and tried to look calm even though her hands were shaking. I am Dr. Helen Wright, speaking for the people of Earth. We are honored to meet with the Council. Honor has nothing to do with this, Kethmor replied, his crystal body flashing red with what might have been anger. Your species has been evaluated and found to be a potential threat to galactic order. We are here to offer you a choice. President Carter moved beside Dr. Wright. He was an older man who had led his country through many difficult times, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. What kind of choice? He asked. The machine leader of the synthetic collective stepped forward. Its voice sounded like metal grinding against metal. You will become a tributary world under Council authority. 70% of your resources will be given to us. Your military will be disbanded. Council representatives will oversee your government. And if we refuse? Asked General Foster, though she already knew the answer would not be good. Vexthel laughed the same cruel laugh that had hurt Jake Harrison months earlier. Then you will join the 47 species that chose extinction over wisdom. Your little world will become space dust and your people will be forgotten? Kethmore activated a holographic display that showed images of dead worlds. Some were burned to ash, others were frozen in ice, and a few were nothing but floating rocks where planets used to be. Each one had once been home to a race that said no to the Council. This is the fate of those who resist, the Valdorian said. We do not enjoy destruction, but order must be maintained. Your species shows signs of aggression and unpredictability that could threaten galactic peace. Dr. Wright felt sick looking at the images, but forced herself to speak. What signs? We have never attacked anyone or threatened other worlds. The insect leader of the Zirathi spoke for the first time. Its voice was like buzzing mixed with clicking sounds. You wage war constantly among yourselves. Your emotions. Control your decisions instead of logic. You create art and stories about conquest and violence. These are the behaviors of a dangerous species. But we also create art about love and peace, Dr. Wright argued. We help each other during disasters and sacrifice for our children. Surely these things matter too. Irrelevant, said the Nefter representative in its wave-like voice. Emotional. Species always become problems eventually. Better to control you now while you are still weak. President Carter tried a different approach. What if we agreed to limits on our expansion? We could stay in our own solar system and not interfere with Council worlds. Impossible, Kethmore responded. Your species will never accept limitations. You will always want more and push further. This is the nature of primitive races before they learn discipline. During all this talking, Chief Engineer Don Rodriguez was studying the alien technology around them. He had been brought along to observe and learn whatever he could. What he noticed gave him both hope and fear. The aliens were incredibly advanced, but their technology seemed to work in very rigid ways. Everything was perfectly organized and followed exact patterns. There were no random elements or creative solutions in their designs. It was like their entire civilization ran on mathematical rules without any room for change. Don also noticed something else. The aliens kept talking about logic and order and control, but they never mentioned creativity or imagination or surprise. These were things that humans had in large amounts, but the aliens seemed to think they were weaknesses. We will give you 1 month to decide, Kethmore announced. Choose submission and life or choose pride and death. There are no other options. The Council representatives began to leave the station. Before they went, Vexthel spoke to the humans one more time. Do not think about fighting us, little monkeys. We have weapons that could turn your sun into a black hole. We have shields. That could stop your most powerful bombs like raindrops. Accept your place as servants, and you might survive long enough to learn civilization. The aliens departed, leaving the humans alone on the station. Dr. Wright looked at her companions and saw the same mixture of fear and anger in their faces that she felt in her heart. The trip back to Earth was quiet. Everyone was thinking about the terrible choice they had to make. Submit to alien rule and lose their freedom, or fight and probably die trying. When they arrived, President Carter called an emergency meeting with leaders from every nation. The news of the ultimatum spread quickly and people everywhere began to panic. Some wanted to surrender immediately while others demanded war despite the odds, but Don Rodriguez had an idea forming in his mind about human advantages the aliens might not understand. The month of waiting felt like the longest time in human history. Every government on Earth worked together for the first time ever, sharing technology and resources to prepare for what might be their final battle. Admiral Robert Kane turned the entire military complex into one giant research center. Factories that used to make cars now built weapons. Scientists who studied medicine now worked on alien technology. Even children helped by solving math problems that computers could not handle. The biggest breakthrough came from Dr. Alex Bennett, a quiet scientist who studied quantum physics. He had been examining pieces of alien technology that Don Rodriguez brought back from the council station. What he found changed everything. Their machines work differently than ours, Dr. Bennett explained to a room full of military leaders and scientists. They use exotic particles to create energy and control matter. But there is something they do not know about humans. General Amy Foster leaned forward in her chair. She had been working with engineers to build new weapons, but so far everything humans could make seemed useless against alien shields and armor. What do they not know? She asked. Dr. Bennett activated a holographic display showing brain scans and energy readings. Human consciousness creates quantum signatures that interfere with their technology. Our thoughts and emotions produce energy patterns that their machines cannot predict or control. The room was quiet as people tried to understand what this meant. Dr. Helen Wright was the first to speak up. "Are you saying our minds can affect their technology?" she asked. "Not just affect it," Dr. Bennett replied with excitement in his voice. "We can potentially rewrite it. Human imagination and creativity work on a quantum level that the aliens have never encountered before, while scientists worked on understanding this discovery. Colonel Rick Stone led secret missions to test human abilities against alien technology. The Council had left small monitoring ships around the solar system to watch what humans were doing. Colonel Stone was a tough soldier who had fought in many wars on Earth. He had volunteered to command the most dangerous missions because he wanted to protect his family and his world. His team included some of the best pilots and fighters humanity could offer. Lieutenant Commander Megan Clark had designed new tactics specifically for fighting aliens. She realized that humans did not need to match alien technology if they could confuse and surprise their enemies instead. "We cannot fight them the way they expect," Megan explained to her pilots. "They think in patterns and follow rules. We need to be random and unpredictable." The first test came when Colonel Stone led an attack on an alien scout ship near Jupiter. The ship was smaller than the Council fleet, but still much more advanced than anything humans had built. Captain Tony Miller flew the lead fighter in the attack. He was young and fearless, the kind of pilot who trusted his instincts more than his instruments. Behind him came Lieutenant Sarah Blake, who could fly through asteroid fields like they were empty space. The alien ship detected them coming and activated shields that should have stopped all human weapons. But when the human fighters opened fire, something unexpected happened. The alien shields began to flicker and change color as if they were confused. "The shields are reacting to our presence," Sarah reported over the radio. "They keep trying to adapt, but they cannot figure out what to block." Tony pushed his fighter harder, flying in patterns that made no logical sense but felt right to him. The alien ship fired back with energy beams that could cut through metal like butter, but Tony dodged them by following his emotions instead of his training. "I'm not thinking about where to go," he told the other pilots. "I am just feeling it, and the aliens cannot predict what I will do next." The battle lasted only 10 minutes, but it proved that humans could fight back. The alien ship was not destroyed, but it was damaged and confused. Most importantly, it retreated instead of easily crushing the human fighters like everyone expected. Back on Earth, Dr. Bennett studied recordings of the battle and made more discoveries. Human emotions broadcast quantum energy that disrupts alien computer systems, he explained. Fear, anger, hope, and love all create different patterns that their machines cannot process. Engineer Rachel Davis began working on devices that could amplify these human quantum signatures. She was brilliant at making complex technology simple enough for soldiers to use in battle. "If human consciousness can affect alien machines," Rachel said, "then we can build weapons that focus our thoughts and emotions into directed energy." Paul Garcia, a weapons engineer, took Rachel's ideas and built the first prototype devices. They looked like simple metal headbands, but they contained quantum amplifiers that could project human thoughts as real force. The first volunteer to test the device was Colonel Stone himself. He put on the headband and focused his mind on protecting Earth and his family. The readings showed energy levels that should have been impossible for such a small device. It works by using determination as fuel, Paul explained. The stronger the human will to survive and protect others, the more powerful the effect becomes. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright made another important discovery about alien psychology. She had been studying recordings of their conversations and noticed something crucial. They are afraid of chaos, she told Admiral Kane. Their entire civilization is built on order and control. They cannot handle situations that do not follow rules or patterns. This gave the military leaders new ideas about how to fight. Instead of trying to match alien technology, humans could use their natural ability to be unpredictable and emotional. Lieutenant Commander Clark developed training programs that taught human soldiers to embrace their feelings during combat instead of suppressing them. Fear could make them faster, anger could make them stronger, and hope could help them survive impossible odds. The aliens expect us to fight like machines, she told her trainees. Instead, we will fight like humans, with all the chaos and emotion that brings. Captain Miller and Lieutenant Blake became the first graduates of this new training. They learned to fly their ships by trusting their instincts completely. They practiced making decisions based on gut feelings rather than tactical analysis. The most important development came when Dr. Bennett realized that multiple human minds working together created exponentially more powerful quantum effects. A single human could confuse alien technology, but a group of humans thinking together could potentially overwhelm it completely. We need to coordinate human consciousness on a massive scale, he explained to President William Carter. If billions of people on Earth could focus their thoughts and emotions at the same time, we might be able to affect alien ships anywhere in the solar system. President Carter authorized the most ambitious project in human history. Every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth would be used to coordinate human thoughts during the coming battle. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only advantage humans had discovered. As the deadline approached, Earth was ready in ways the Galactic Council could never have imagined. Humans had not built better ships or stronger weapons, but they had learned to use their own minds as weapons that no alien technology could defend against. The alien monitoring ships had reported that humans were building new weapons and training soldiers, but they had no idea what was really happening. They could not detect or understand quantum signatures created by human consciousness. When the Council fleet arrived to collect Earth's surrender, they expected to face primitive chemical weapons and simple nuclear devices. Instead, they would encounter something their perfect civilization had never prepared for: the power of billions of human minds united in the determination to remain free. The deadline came with the dawn over New York City. President William Carter stood before cameras that would broadcast his message to every human on Earth and every alien ship in the solar system. His words would decide whether humanity lived free or died fighting. To the Galactic Council, President Carter said with a steady voice that hid his fear, "We have considered your ultimatum carefully. Our answer is simple and final. We refuse to surrender our freedom. Earth will never bow to alien masters." The response from the Council fleet was immediate. High Commander Vextel's voice echoed across all communication channels, filled with anger and disbelief. "Foolish monkeys," he said, "you have chosen extinction. We will make your death quick as a mercy for your stupidity." 20 massive alien warships began moving toward Earth. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. They had shields that could stop nuclear weapons and energy beams that could cut through mountains. Against them, humanity had only 100 smaller ships and weapons that had never been tested in real war. Admiral Robert Kane commanded the defense from Luna Base, the military station built on the moon. He watched the alien fleet approach and felt the weight of every human life depending on his decisions. "All ships to battle stations," he ordered. "Remember your training and trust in what makes us human." Colonel Rick Stone led the first wave of human fighters. His ship was equipped with the new quantum resonance weapons that Dr. Alex Bennett and Paul Garcia had designed. Behind him flew Captain Tony Miller and Lieutenant Sarah Blake, along with 50 other pilots who had learned to fight with their hearts instead of just their minds. The first alien ship they encountered was a Zephyrian destroyer, its hull glowing with the same blue energy humans had seen during first contact. It was 3 times larger than any human ship and covered in weapons that could vaporize steel. "Engaging the enemy," Colonel Stone reported as his fighters spread out around the alien vessel. "All pilots, remember what we learned. Feel the battle, do not think about it." The alien ship opened fire with energy beams that lit up space like deadly rainbows. The beams should have destroyed the human fighters instantly, but something unexpected happened. Captain Miller, flying on pure instinct, dodged through the weapon fire in patterns that defied all logic. "Their targeting systems cannot track me," he reported with amazement in his voice. "I am not flying where they think I should be." Lieutenant Blake discovered something even more remarkable. When she focused her emotions on protecting Earth and her family, her ship's quantum weapon created energy bursts that made the alien shields flicker and fail. "The shields are trying to adapt, but they cannot," she called out. "Our weapons are changing faster than their defenses can respond." The battle grew more intense as more alien ships joined the fight. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but their unpredictable tactics began to work. Alien computer systems, designed for perfect efficiency, could not handle the chaos of human emotional warfare. Captain Miller made the decision that changed everything. His ship was damaged and his weapons were failing, but he saw an opportunity. The alien destroyer had opened its main weapon port to fire on Luna Base. "I am going in," he announced, turning his fighter toward the massive alien ship. "Tony, no," Sarah Blake called over the radio. "That is suicide." "Maybe," Tony replied, "but my little girl is down there on Earth. I will not let these aliens hurt her." Tony flew his damaged fighter straight into the alien weapon port. It should have been impossible to penetrate the ship's defenses, but his determination created a quantum cascade that overloaded the destroyer's systems. The explosion that followed lit up the entire battlefield. The alien ship broke apart, its perfect technology unable to handle the chaos that one human pilot had introduced into its systems. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had destroyed a Council warship in direct combat, but the victory came at a cost. More alien ships were arriving, and the human forces were taking heavy losses. Admiral Kane realized that conventional tactics would not be enough to win this battle. "Activate the Consciousness Coordination Protocol," he ordered. Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Wright was monitoring the battle from the command center. She had been working with Dr. Bennett to prepare for this moment. Billions of humans around the world were watching the battle on their screens, feeling the same fear and determination as the pilots fighting in space. "All networks are ready," she reported. "We can coordinate human consciousness on a planetary scale." Dr. Bennett activated the quantum amplifiers that had been built into every communication satellite around Earth. Suddenly, the thoughts and emotions of 8 billion humans became focused into a single quantum signal that reached across space. The effect was immediate and devastating to the alien fleet. Every Council ship suddenly found its systems overloading as human willpower crashed into their technology like a tsunami of consciousness. Weapons stopped working, shields failed, and navigation systems began reporting impossible readings. "What is happening to our ships?" High Commander Vexel demanded from his command vessel. His science officer, a synthetic collective unit, tried to analyze the readings. "Unknown energy patterns are disrupting all our systems. The source appears to be the third planet itself." "Impossible," Vexel said. "Primitive worlds cannot generate this kind of interference." But the impossible was happening. The combined hope, fear, anger, and love of billions of humans was creating quantum effects that alien science had never encountered. Their perfect technology, built on logic and order, could not adapt to the raw emotion of an entire species fighting for survival. Colonel Stone saw his chance and ordered all remaining human ships to attack. The alien vessels, crippled by quantum interference, could barely defend themselves. Lieutenant Blake led a squadron against a Zerathi hive ship. its insectoid crew unable to coordinate their thoughts while human emotions disrupted their mental link. Captain Rodriguez, who had survived Tony Miller's sacrifice, used his grief and anger to power weapons that cut through alien armor like it was paper. The tide of battle turned when the largest alien ship, a Valdorian crystal fortress, tried to retreat. But Lieutenant Commander Megan Clark, now commanding her own vessel, used her tactical genius combined with human intuition to predict where the aliens would go. "They think in patterns," she told her crew, "but we think in possibilities." Her ship intercepted the crystal fortress and unleashed a focused beam of human consciousness that shattered the alien vessel's crystalline structure. The explosion sent shockwaves through the remaining Council fleet. Admiral Kane watched from Luna Base as alien ships began to withdraw from Earth orbit. Half of their fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the survivors were retreating in disorder. "They are running?" he said with amazement. "The Great Galactic Council is actually running from us." High Commander Vexthal's voice came over the communication channels one last time, but now it was filled with fear instead of arrogance. "This is not over, humans," he transmitted as his ship limped away. "The Council will return with greater forces. Your little trick will not work twice." But Dr. Wright, monitoring all alien communications, heard something else in the Zephyrian commander's voice. For the first time, the aliens were not certain of victory. They had seen their perfect technology fail against something they could not understand or control. The Battle of Luna was over, and humanity had won. The cost was high, with many brave pilots lost, including Captain Miller, but Earth remained free. More importantly, humans had proven that they could fight back against seemingly impossible odds. News of the victory spread across Earth like wildfire. People celebrated in the streets, but the leaders knew this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council would not accept this defeat easily. President Carter addressed the world once again, his voice now filled with pride instead of fear. "Today we proved that freedom is stronger than tyranny and that the human spirit cannot be conquered," he said. "But we must prepare for the greater battle to come." The war between humanity and the Galactic Council had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. News of humanity's victory at Luna spread across the galaxy like wildfire through quantum communication networks. For the first time in over 1,000 years, someone had defeated the Galactic Council in open battle. On worlds throughout the galaxy, enslaved species whispered about the brave little planet that had said no to their overlords. General Amy Foster stood in the command center on Earth, reading intelligence reports from across known space. The victory had given humanity something precious: hope. But it had also painted a target on their backs that could be seen from every corner of the galaxy. "The Council is mobilizing everything they have," she told Admiral Kane. "Intelligence suggests they are bringing ships from every sector to crush us completely. But the reports also contain something unexpected. 3 different alien species had sent secret messages to Earth, asking if the humans needed allies in their fight. These were worlds that had been conquered by the Council long ago and forced into slavery. Dr. Helen Wright was studying these messages when she made an important discovery. "The Council's empire is not as stable as they pretend," she explained to President Carter. "Many species serve them only because they have no choice. If we can show them that the Council can be defeated, some might join us." Admiral Kane, now promoted after the Luna victory, began planning humanity's first offensive operation. Instead of waiting for the Council to attack again, humans would strike first at enemy positions throughout the solar system. The target was the Kepler 442 system, where the Council maintained a supply base and held a peaceful species called the Ulturians in slavery. Commander Jake Harrison, the pilot who had first encountered the Zephyrians, now commanded his own ship and volunteered to lead the mission. "The Ulturians have been slaves for 300 years, Dr. Wright explained to Jake before the mission. "They are artists and philosophers who never developed weapons because they believed in peace. The Council uses them to create beautiful things and then takes credit for their work." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. The idea of enslaving an entire species for their creativity disgusted him. He thought about Tony Miller and the other pilots who had died defending Earth, and he knew they would want him to help free others. The human fleet that jumped to Kepler 442 was small but powerful. They had learned from the Luna battle and equipped their ships with improved quantum resonance weapons. More importantly, they carried devices created by Dr. Alex Bennett that could project human consciousness across space. Lieutenant Sarah Blake, now promoted to captain after her heroics at Luna, led the fighter squadrons. She had painted Tony Miller's name on her ship to honor her fallen friend. Behind her flew a new generation of pilots trained in emotional warfare. The council base in the Kepler system was defended by Zerathi hive ships, their insectoid crews linked by psychic connections that made them fight as one mind. Their weapons were designed to overwhelm enemies with perfectly coordinated attacks, but Colonel Rickstone, leading the assault force, had studied the enemy's weaknesses. Their strength is also their weakness, he told his pilots. If we can disrupt their mental link, they become confused and helpless. The battle began when the human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the fourth planet. The Zerathi responded immediately, their hive ships moving in perfect formation like a swarm of deadly insects. Captain Blake led the first attack, her fighters spreading out to avoid the coordinated alien fire. But instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships, they targeted the psychic relay stations that allowed the Zerathi to think together. Focus your minds on freedom, she ordered her pilots. Think about breaking chains and opening cages. Project those thoughts at their control systems. The quantum weapons powered by human emotion struck the Zerathi relay stations like hammers of pure will. The alien crew members suddenly found their minds separated from each other for the first time in centuries. Without their shared consciousness, they could not coordinate their attacks. Commander Harrison used this confusion to strike at the main base. His ship, enhanced with consciousness amplifiers, projected the determination of his entire crew directly into the enemy's defensive systems. The shields flickered and failed as human willpower overwhelmed alien logic. On the planet's surface, the human landing force found thousands of Altrurians working in massive art factories under Zerathi guard. The aliens looked almost human, but with longer limbs and eyes that held deep sadness. Engineer Rachel Davis, now leading a technical team, discovered that the Altrurians were controlled by neural implants that suppressed their ability to think for themselves. The implants used the same psychic technology as the Zerathi hive mind. We can break these, she told Colonel Stone. Human consciousness can disrupt the control signals just like it affects their ships. Dr. Bennett had sent quantum resonance devices with the landing force specifically for this purpose. When Rachel activated them, focusing her mind on the concept of freedom, the neural implants began to malfunction and shut down. The first Altrian to be freed was an elderly artist named Caliph. When the implant stopped working, his eyes cleared and he looked around as if seeing the world for the first time in decades. "We are free?" he asked in a voice filled with wonder. "After so long, we are actually free?" "Yes," Rachel replied, "but we need your help to free your people and stop the council from enslaving others." Caliph began speaking to the other Altrurians in their own language. As more implants were destroyed, the freed aliens began to cry and laugh and sing. They had forgotten what it felt like to have their own thoughts. The liberation of the Altrurians provided humanity with crucial intelligence about council operations. The grateful aliens revealed the locations of other slave worlds and the weaknesses in council technology that only servants would know. "The council species are not united," Caliph explained to Commander Harrison. "They maintain peace among themselves only through fear and rigid hierarchy. If that structure is threatened, they will turn on each other." Back in the battle above the planet, Captain Blake made a discovery that would change the war. When she focused her emotions on the memory of Tony Miller's sacrifice, her ship's weapons created a resonance pattern that didn't just disrupt alien technology, but actually took control of it. "I am rewriting their computer systems," she reported, with excitement. "I can make their weapons fire on their own ships." This was the breakthrough that human scientists had hoped for but never dared to expect. Human consciousness could not only confuse alien technology but actually reprogram it. To serve human purposes, the Zirathi fleet, already weakened by the loss of their psychic coordination, found their own weapons turning against them. Ships that had fought together for centuries suddenly began firing on each other as human. Willpower rewrote their targeting systems. The battle ended with a complete human victory. The Council base was destroyed, the Altrians were free, and an entire Zirathi battle group had been captured or eliminated. More importantly, word of the liberation spread quickly to other enslaved worlds. Admiral Kane received the news back on Earth with mixed emotions. The victory was greater than anyone had hoped, but intelligence reports showed the Council was massing the largest fleet in galactic history to destroy humanity once and for all. "They are bringing everything," General Foster reported. "Every ship from every member species. The fleet heading toward us could conquer 100 worlds like Earth." But humanity was no longer fighting alone. The freed Altrians had sent messages to other enslaved species, and some were beginning to rebel against their council masters. The galaxy was waking up from 1,000 years of imposed peace. President Carter addressed the world once again. But this time his message went out to every free world in the galaxy. "We fight not just for Earth," he said, "but for the right of all species to choose their own destiny. The Council calls this rebellion, but we call it freedom." Dr. Wright had been analyzing the psychological profiles of Council species and made an important discovery. Their entire civilization is based on the belief that they are superior to everyone else, she explained. If we can prove that belief wrong, their whole system might collapse. The stage was set for the final confrontation. The Council was bringing their ultimate weapon, a battle station that had never been defeated. But humanity had something the Council had never faced, the power of hope spreading across the galaxy, like a virus that their perfect order could not contain. The war was no longer just about Earth's survival. It had become a revolution that would decide whether freedom or tyranny ruled the stars. The final battle began at the center of the galaxy, where the Galactic Council had built their ultimate fortress. Core Station was a planet-sized weapon that had crushed every rebellion for 1,000 years. It was protected by energy shields that could stop star destroyers and armed with weapons that could crack worlds in half. Admiral Jake Harrison commanded the combined fleet of humans and freed alien species as they approached the massive station. Behind him flew ships from 20 different worlds that had thrown off their chains after hearing about humanity's victories. The fleet was still outnumbered 10-1, but it carried something more powerful than weapons, the desperate hope of billions of enslaved beings. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison," he broadcast to the fleet. "Today we end 1,000 years of tyranny. Fight not just with your weapons, but with your hearts and minds. Show the Council what freedom really means." Captain Sarah Blake, now commanding her own destroyer, looked at the massive station ahead of them and felt both fear and determination. Tony Miller's name was still painted on her ship, reminding her why they were fighting. Every human pilot carried the memory of friends who had died to bring them this far. Inside Core Station High, Commander Vexthal prepared for what he believed would be the final extermination of the human plague. The station's central command chamber was filled with representatives from all 5 Council species, their combined fleets arranged in perfect defensive formations. "Today we restore order to the galaxy," Vexthal announced. "The human infection and all who have been contaminated by their chaos will be purged completely." Kethmore of the Valdorians activated the station's ultimate weapon, a quantum cannon that could destroy entire solar systems. "Let this be a lesson to any species that considers defying Council authority," he said, his crystal body flashing with deadly light. The battle began as the massive Council fleet moved to surround the rebel forces. Zephyrian energy beams lit up space while Zirathi hive ships swarmed forward in perfect coordination. Valdorian crystal ships created geometric patterns of destruction, while Nephter vessels released clouds of weapons that moved like living things. The synthetic collective ships fought with mathematical precision that never missed a target, Against this perfect order, the human-led fleet responded with beautiful chaos. Captain Blake led her fighters in wild spirals that confused enemy targeting systems. Commander Harrison used pure intuition to predict where the alien weapons would fire, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. But the rebel fleet was taking heavy losses. The Council's superior technology and numbers were overwhelming despite human unpredictability. Core Station's main weapon began charging, preparing to destroy Earth itself with a single shot across the galaxy. That was when President William Carter made the decision that saved not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. From his command center on Earth, he activated every quantum resonance device that Dr. Alex Bennett had built over the past year. Communication networks on every free world linked together, connecting the consciousness of trillions of beings in one massive act of shared will. People of Earth and all free worlds, President Carter broadcast, focus your minds on one thought: freedom for everyone, everywhere. Let our combined hope shatter the chains that bind the galaxy. The effect was beyond anything humans had achieved before. The quantum signature created by trillions of conscious minds thinking the same thought at the same time created a wave of pure willpower that swept across space faster than light itself. On Core Station, alien computer systems began to malfunction as human emotion crashed into their logical circuits like a tsunami of chaos. The perfect order that had maintained council power for a millennium suddenly found itself facing something it had never been designed to handle. Systems failing across all sectors, reported the synthetic collective commander, its mechanical voice crackling with interference. Unknown quantum patterns are rewriting our basic programming. High Commander Vexthal watched in horror as his own ship's controls stopped responding to his commands. This is impossible, he said. Consciousness cannot affect matter at this scale, but Dr. Helen Wright, monitoring the battle from Earth, knew better. Consciousness is what creates reality, she said to those around her. The Council forgot that truth when they tried to impose order on the natural chaos of existence. Captain Blake saw her opportunity when the enemy fleet's coordination began to break down. She led a desperate assault directly at core stations. Quantum cannon, knowing it was a suicide mission but determined to stop the weapon before it could fire on Earth. All fighters, follow me in, she ordered. We end this now, whatever the cost. Captain Tony Rodriguez, flying beside her, powered his weapons with memories of his destroyed homeworld. Lieutenant Commander Megan Clark used her tactical genius enhanced by pure rage at the Council's cruelty. A dozen other human pilots followed them into the storm of defensive fire surrounding the massive station. They should have been vaporized instantly, but the quantum interference created by trillions of focused minds made the station's weapons fire randomly. Energy beams that should have destroyed the human fighters instead struck Council ships, turning the aliens' perfect defenses against themselves. The breakthrough came when Captain Blake reached the station's quantum cannon just as it was preparing to fire. Instead of trying to destroy the weapon, she used her ship's consciousness amplifiers to project one simple human concept directly into the cannon's targeting system. The idea of protecting innocent life, the weapon designed to destroy, suddenly found its programming rewritten by human compassion. Instead of firing on Earth, the quantum cannon turned inward and discharged its full power into Core Station itself. The explosion that followed lit up the galactic center like a new star being born. Core Station, the symbol of Council power for 1,000 years, cracked apart as its own ultimate weapon tore it from within. High Commander Vexthal's final transmission echoed across the battlefield as his command section broke away from the dying station. How? He asked in a voice filled with disbelief. How can chaos defeat order? How can emotion overcome logic? Admiral Harrison answered him over the open channel as Council ships throughout the system began to surrender or retreat in panic. Because freedom is stronger than control and hope is more powerful than fear, that is something you never understood. The surrender came not from the Council leadership but from individual ship commanders who saw their perfect civilization crumbling around them. Without the rigid hierarchy that had held their empire together, the different alien species began to turn on each other or simply fled to avoid destruction within hours. The Galactic Council ceased to exist as an organized force. Some ships escaped to distant corners of space, but their power was broken forever. The news spread across the galaxy at light speed, carried by quantum communicators on every world. President Carter stood before the cameras once more, but this time he was not speaking just to Earth. His words were being broadcast to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. "The age of imposed order is over," he said. "Today begins a new era where every species has the right to choose its own path among the stars." The aftermath brought challenges that no one had expected. Hundreds of worlds that had been held together by Council force suddenly found themselves free but unprepared for independence. Some fell into civil war while others struggled with the basic concepts of self-governance, but humanity, led by Dr. Wright and other experts in alien psychology, helped establish the Free Worlds Alliance. This new organization was based on cooperation rather than domination, with each species contributing what it could while maintaining its independence. The Outurians became humanity's closest allies, their artistic vision helping to design a new type of civilization based on creativity rather than conquest. The freed Zirathi learned to think as individuals for the first time in millennia, while some Valdorian worlds chose to share their crystal technology freely rather than hoard it. Even some former Council species joined the alliance, recognizing that the old ways of thinking had led only to stagnation and eventual collapse. The Nephter revealed that they had originally been forced into the Council by conquest, and they gladly shared their knowledge of exotic biology with human scientists. Admiral Harrison established the Alliance Defense Force, but its mission was protection rather than expansion. Human ships patrolled trade routes and helped settle disputes, but they never imposed Earth's will on other worlds. Years later, as the galaxy settled into its new reality, Captain Blake stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. She was older now, with gray in her hair, but her eyes still held the fire that had helped free the galaxy. The memorial wall beside her contained thousands of names, including Tony Miller and all the other humans who had died to make this moment possible. Each name represented someone who had chosen to fight rather than submit, who had believed that freedom was worth any sacrifice. A young cadet joined her at the memorial, a girl whose parents had been slaves on one of the former Council worlds. "Captain Blake," she asked, "why did the humans fight so hard for people they had never met?" Blake smiled and placed a hand on the girl's shoulder.